The base is dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It is an overreaction Monday edition, and yep, there's plenty to react about. Atlanta United 2-1 losers in Fort Lauderdale to enter Miami. You had quite a few scoreless draws in MLS this weekend. You had quite a few insane matches this weekend as well. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about whatever else you want to get into worldwide. We'll go into more detail on the non-MLS stuff tonight on Soccer Over There. We got a title race in Italy, and it looks like it is a 2-horse race, not a 3-horse race anymore. Of course, we still have a title race in England. We don't have title races in France and Germany anymore, but we got lots of different conversations happening in both of those leagues. We'll talk about all of that tonight. Soccer Over There, 7:05 on the network. We also have to react to Jared Smith back in the States. What's up?
The hell does that deserve a reaction for?
I mean, I can give you some reactions, but I probably need
They're
to
probably
censor
not
myself.
positive.
No, of course not. I need to have the bleep button ready.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I was hoping to come back to more happiness, not the city of Miami being undeservedly happy on principle.
I had a good weekend, didn't they?
Yeah.
They were able to post the ATLLL name because City of Miami went 3-0 against Atlanta. If you count also the fact that the Braves still can't get out of their own way, and the Hawks doing whatever the hell that was.
They're being the 8th seed. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, they gotta get somebody to work with. They gotta get somebody with Trey.
Yeah, I guess the sense I get as I got back into town after flying back from Fort Lauderdale last night, should probably just disband all of Atlanta sports teams, correct? Is that the general vibe? Just disband them all and
yeah.
Move them to Macon and get them out of here? Is that where we're at?
Yep, get out. We're done. Out. Everybody.
Yeah, just send them everywhere else, I guess.
Yeah, just dispersal drafts. Just get rid of everybody out. That's where it goes. It was a frustrating weekend. Don't get me wrong. Very frustrating because it's another game where, you can look at all the stats you want to look at. You can look at the game with open eyes. You can look at the chances being created. You can look at 2 that did get checks from the video assistant referee. 1 sent down to the monitor, and neither were given as penalties for Atlanta United. You can look at 20 shots to 7. You can look at everything and say, how do you not come out of there with a win? How do you not come out of there at least with a point? And there's not an easy answer to it. And that's the game. And that's what drives you insane, because then you're trying to find an answer. And then it's let's blame George Campbell. It's all his fault. It's all this guy's fault. It's all this guy's fault. It's all this fault. And it's not that simple, honestly. There's no one person at fault for not scoring the goals. There's no one person at fault for not getting a result here. It's a frustrating day because they played the way they want to play, with the exception of the ball hitting the back of the net. They are creating, and I give Gonzalo Pineda a ton of credit in breaking this down in the post-game comments. They're not just creating chances, just random chances. They're not just creating the same chance all the time. They're creating good chances, and they're creating a lot of different kinds of chances. I'll give you this, and I want to touch on Shiva's question really quick. I think Shiva not able to listen live, but basically I'm going to paraphrase from Twitter. Is there something about the way that Atlanta plays, like playing pretty soccer, playing, I would say, good soccer, and is there something about that makes it harder to score goals? And no, because the reverse isn't true. It's not easier to score goals if you play ugly soccer or play direct or don't try to combine around the penalty area, or the kind of things that I think would go hand in hand. You look at the shot created actions in MLS this season. LA Galaxy, number 1 per 90 minutes. You think of them as an attack-oriented team that scores goals. NYC, well, they're scoring some goals right now, that's for sure. Good grief. Your boy Tati Castellanos, Jared. Good grief.
Tati Castellanos continues to be very good, and Toronto continues to have stretches where they hemorrhage goals.
Yeah, they'd been on a good run of form. This game was a drunken mess. To give up 5 straight goals.
This weekend had a lot of drunkenness, like across the league.
It did. But in shot created actions, it's LA Galaxy number 1. It's NYC number 2. NYC scored 11 goals in their last 2 games. It's Atlanta United number 3. It's Columbus number 4, and Columbus hadn't scored in 4 games. It's then LAFC number 5.
Yeah, if you look at expected points, by the way, Columbus is like number 1 or 2 in the league.
Yeah. and Caleb Porter's
Columbus is beating
this.
their head against a wall. Like, Columbus fans are losing their minds, but they're also being reasonable about it. Like that, they're doing everything right except getting points.
What was that word you used? You used
reasonable?
A word that I'm not used to hearing, Jared.
I mean, you can get mad about it. That's fine. But like, they're doing everything right except getting points.
Use the word. Use the word again. Say it.
What, reasonable?
Yes. It's crazy. San Jose is next on there. New York Red Bulls are next. I mean, look, shot creating actions don't guarantee goals. XG doesn't guarantee goals. Playing pretty soccer doesn't guarantee goals. But the reverse is also not true, and that's where I think some people are fooling themselves into this. The reverse of not trying to create opportunities, not trying to play pretty soccer, of not trying to attack, which don't even bring up 2019 memories and people's responses to that. Not trying to score goals and create the chances and create the variety of chances that Atlanta United creates. Not doing those things doesn't guarantee more goals. Like, I hope that's understood. I hope we can get past frustration and anger and just and not bang our heads against the wall so much that we lose the reasonable notion, to use Jared's word again, of teams that try to score goals generally do. And when they don't, in this case, Atlanta and Columbus both banging their heads against the wall, you don't score more goals by trying less. Like, I'm trying to find an explanation here to follow that line of logic, and I can't find it. I'm lost in the wilderness. It'll drive you insane. It will. It absolutely will. I think Atlanta United's a team, in my mind, that they have to stay positive and motivated because they are doing very good things on the field. They, up to this game, hadn't given up more than one goal in a game. They hadn't given up many goals, period. Give up the Olympico to Charlotte, give up 2 here, where mistakes punish you. Absolutely. But you're going back to the Montreal game where it all fell apart after a mistake. This wasn't a series of mistakes. This was 2 mistakes, and the second goal maybe has a couple mistakes in it. I mean, wherever you guys want to go, we'll get into it today. But yeah, it's frustrating. Don't get me wrong. And there's a difference between frustrating and I think Shiva used the word in the full-time report yesterday, discouraging. I'm not in any way discouraged by the way Atlanta United's playing. Not at all. But I'm frustrated in the production. Those are 2 different things. And yes, I know. And you guys can go ahead and like clip this and put it up and yell at me about it. The way you play doesn't always guarantee a result. You can play well, not get a good result. You can play badly and get a good result. You can't get fooled about purely results. Because if you don't play well, luck runs out. You're not going to win a bunch of games by not playing well. And when you're playing well and not winning games, you have to stay true to that. Because if you don't, it's not like you're going to win more games by not playing well. That's the point here. And playing well is not playing perfect, because if you guys can show me the perfect game where nobody makes a mistake in a game and everything's great, show me how a team can replicate that every 90 minutes, every game, and I will find you somebody who will invest in your strategy to be the best team in the history of the planet, in the history of the world, and the history of the game, and you'll never lose. don't think that's reasonable, to use Jarrett's word again. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes, but it's frustrating. It's very, very frustrating. And now, look, it gets hard because you're going to Montreal, who hasn't lost in a while and has started to right the ship after a rocky start to the season, dealing with CONCACAF. It's a tough game on the road. Doesn't get any easier. And that's where you can't, if you are in this team, you can't get discouraged. You can't get frustrated. You go and you try harder and you play harder and you continue to work at what you're doing. But everything up until the ball hitting the back of the net, I'm very, very happy with. I'd love to clean up the couple individual mistakes that you made yesterday. These are players who haven't made a ton of mistakes. They did. Doesn't mean they should be benched because they made mistakes. Doesn't mean they should be kicked out of town. Let's slow down the roll here, because that's what happens when young players make mistakes. They can't play anymore. Got to get rid of them. No, that's not how they get better. You can't say, let's play the kids. No, but only if they don't make mistakes, because it's just not realistic. George Campbell made a big mistake on the first goal. He lost the fly of the ball. Just lost it. Got beat completely. Very shocking mistake. Second goal, you can yell at Campbell. The whole thing starts with a turnover from Santi Sosa, who I thought was brilliant up to that point. Well, it was maybe Sosa's best game in an Atlanta United shirt. He gave the ball away needlessly in the midfield, and you create an odd man rush for Miami. And they punish you. And Campbell gets a touch to it. He could have done better. Yeah, you would have loved for him to do better. But the whole situation starts with Miami on a break because of a turnover in the middle third. That's the game. That's the game. Miami chances after that, you're throwing everybody forward possible. Miami had 7 shots. That's the game. You can't score, and they get 2 on 2 of their rare chances and forays forward. And it will drive you insane, and you will give yourself a concussion from banging your head against the wall. It's one of those days. And we've had a few of those days.
Yeah, I mean, the discussion about young players, it's the faith that Gonzalo Pineda has in those young players, like a Caleb Wiley, like a George Campbell, with the work that they've been putting in Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday, depending on when match day is, and the faith that Pineda has in them with everything that they've been learning, that they've warranted a starting spot. And if you make a mistake, if you have a bad game, that doesn't mean that you are a horrific player, a bad player, and have to sit or go sit in a corner someplace.
Yeah, the narrative on George Campbell got really weird yesterday after the game, to where then all of a sudden Campbell's had a bad season. No. Did he have a good day yesterday? No, he made a catastrophic mistake. And I'm sure he probably didn't sleep very well last night. I'm sure he's very angry at himself because he's a professional, and he's also 20. And he's second in the team in minutes. Why? Because he's earned them. 2, because also you've had a lot of rotation at center back because of suspensions, because of injuries. But you can't play revisionist history when this stuff happens, guys. And you can't crush your young players all the time either. You can't. He hasn't had a bad season by any stretch. He's had a good season. He had a bad day yesterday. Those are 2 separate things. But he earned the playing time. You definitely can't play revisionist history about that. Alan Franco's not 100%. George Campbell's been very good this season. It's a no-brainer. There's no question about what the starting lineup is on the back line. No question.
And then what we're continuing to see from Caleb Wiley, continues to warrant more and more play on left.
There's been no complaints about Caleb Wiley. Nobody's saying Caleb Wiley shouldn't be playing. That's you're setting up an argument that's not there.
Oh no, I was just adding the idea that young players are earning playing time. I wasn't addressing.
I know, but the young player specifically is talking about people now crushing George Campbell after a bad day. Caleb Wiley, nobody's crushing. Caleb Wiley was very good again. Caleb Wiley got clocked by DeAndre Yedlin in what I thought was a very dirty play.
Mm-hmm.
Yedlin has no chance to get to the ball and goes through the back of the head of Caleb Wiley. And hopefully Caleb's all right. He did finish out time until they were able to make the substitution for Araujo coming on at that point. But, yeah, I was really angry about that challenge from Yedlin because he's late and he has no chance to get to the ball. But, well, Wiley was very good once again. There's no question about it. Jared, I want to get into something with you because we've talked about this before with certain kinds of players. And one part of this conversation, the first place I heard this phrase was with Barcelona under Johan Cruyff, the dream team. And he had a team that played very, very pretty soccer, great soccer, all the combination play you can possibly imagine. What happened when he brought in Risto Stoichkov to that team, Jarrett? There's a phrase that I know you like a lot. That
if I wanted you to understand it, what we were doing.
No, not that one. Not that one.
Oh.
That's a different one.
Oh, mala leche.
Yes. Who on this team that is getting healthy, and mala leche, bad milk, spoiled milk. Sometimes you need a little bit of that jolt. And when you have a team that plays very good, very nice, very combining and creating chances with it, don't get me wrong. It's not like, and people will try to spin it because they pass sideways. That's bad. No, they're creating chances. They're opening up space. They're doing it in a variety of ways. I'm sorry, the chance creation, the shot creation, all those things don't back the argument of, well, sideways pass bad, backwards pass bad. But you want to switch it up a little bit, add a little bit of a change to it. You put Luis Araujo into that team from the start, and he is your mala leche, in my opinion, because at times he won't go with the flow of finding the space, combining. He will put his head down and say, screw this, I'm going to goal, and I'm going to find a way through. And that puts defenses even more on their heels, and it creates more space for the other guys too. I think he's the one, as soon as he is 90 minutes ready, and he's getting close, he gives this team a different feel in the attack. Go ahead.
He literally blew his hamstring out, giving you a different feel in the first moment when he scored a goal.
Yeah, he gives you a different feel in that sense, where it's the pressure and the explosiveness. But I think where he gives you a different feel too is he absolutely can combine and play the 1-2s and do the things that the system wants you to do from a positional play aspect of opening a team up. He does those things. He does them very well. But he also is maybe the most possible, not just on the counter pressure side, which I think is another element of him being in this team that gives you a different wrinkle, but he's the one that at times can just blow past the defender with pace and skill and open a game up in a different way. And I thought he did that when he came on. I think he'll do that more and more when he is 90 minutes fit. And he's the one who I think gives this attack another dimension, an attack that's been good in creating the chances, et cetera, et cetera. I know you don't want to hear it anymore, but it's true. He's the one who gives you another dimension in the attack and can make it even more difficult to defend this team.
Well, if you, okay. I frequently see people break down wingers into two categories of a Venn diagram. I know it's not that simple, but let's play it out. Let's go through it. A winger who's going to step inside and be technical and dribble and go to goal.
Mm-hmm.
Or a winger who is going to stretch things with speed to the outside. Get you a man who can do both, which is what Luis can do.
Yep.
And provide you either one of those. And it's good to have because, man, I'm going to preface this by saying this is not a complaint about Caleb Wiley because I don't want it to become sounding like that. Caleb Wiley is 17 years old. Caleb Wiley does a lot of really good things, but he's also 17 and he's going to have ups and downs because he's 17 playing against adults. And sometimes it's not going to be there for him. That's okay. That's part of development. It isn't always there for George Campbell. But if you want to, as I said yesterday, if you to polish up a gym, it's not a quick, hey, this isn't FIFA. You don't put a 20-year-old or a 19 or 18 or 17-year-old out there like on FIFA and everything goes perfectly fine because they're a computer.
Right.
Based solely on stats. Like they're going to make mental errors. They're going to make physical errors.
He's gaining experience points.
But you have to let him do that. You have to do, if you want to take it back, you want to go look at somebody who did this, go look at 2018 Philadelphia with Austin Trusty, and I forget who the other center back was. They ran two young center backs out there all year long. Was it McKenzie?
Yeah.
I didn't think it was. I thought it was somebody else. But it was McKenzie and Trusty. They run out there all year long, and they make some mistakes. Like, mistakes that hurt that club in terms of winning games. But I just vividly remember, and I think it was Doyle who wrote about it, and he was correct at the time. And I think it still stands today of these guys are making mistakes, but they're young, and you're making these mistakes now in April, May, whatever it may be. You can afford to do that in a playoff-based league like MLS because you're hoping that that guy becomes a more polished gem and that those mistakes turn into lessons and that they get them fixed by the stretch run getting into the playoffs
Well, it's
because you've
multiple
got
layers too, Jarrett, because you are still dealing with a lot of absences.
might be dealing
And
more depending on what they say about George.
yeah. I thought he pulled his groin at the end when he I thought was pushed at the end of the play by Higuain. I mean, he went off pretty far off the pitch and was in pain and got up and got back on the field because
It's wild. That's all Higuain's good for anymore.
one-legged George Campbell was better than nobody, which is where you were at that point.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, Campbell's playing because Franco's day-to-day with an ankle issue. Wiley's playing because Araujo's not 100%. But those young players have earned that time with what they've done on the training pitch and what they've done in games, and they continue to get the time right now. But it will make them better. You're not sacrificing right now, like playing top guys to play kids just because. No. You're playing them because you have to. They've earned it. And they're going to be better for it. Wiley's been very, very good. And Campbell has been very, very good. He made a mistake yesterday. You want to give him another mistake on the second goal? Sure, I think you're being a little harsh, but fine. Could he have played it better? Sure.
I thought he got turned around on the second goal.
Oh, he did because it's
because he's in a tough situation.
Yeah, I mean, he gets turned around because he's in a bad spot. The first goal, he loses it, and it's bad. But that doesn't take away the rest of the games that he's played in, which he's played in every one, that were good. That's the thing that is weird about what we do, especially with young players, where it feels like it should be the other way around. He's a young guy, made a mistake. We're going to pick him up and get back to it. I mean, when calling him out like the way that people have, it's like, wow, okay.
I feel like we do this with Franco when he makes mistakes.
There's people who just never accepted Alan Franco, period. And
I mean,
look,
you had that with LGP back in the day. Every now and then LGP would get a little out of pocket. LGP was a great emergency defender, though, in 2017, 2018, and was able to clean things up. There were times LGP got a little sideways and was forced to clean it up.
Got more sideways in 19, and that's probably why you started to see changes in the way that the team played and what happened after that. But one thing about that, you're lucky in that you have Miles Robinson, who's pretty steady generally. As he made mistakes, he gave up a penalty, I thought, where he got beat against Montreal. But there's not a whole lot of those over his career, which is a good thing. He's very steady. Franco will play outstanding. And yes, he has been prone to make that one important mistake. Not every game, but more than you'd like. You'd like a little more steadiness. Campbell has generally been steady defensively. Possession, he's still getting smoother. He's still getting better. He's made mistakes in possession. That's a different side of the game for me. This was the first time that I was kind of like, wow, that's a big defensive mistake from George Campbell on the first goal. That's not what I expect out of him. But you want steadiness, especially in the back line. And you need that from these guys because you're going to put them on islands a lot of times. You're going to play and get everybody forward as much as you possibly can. Fullbacks getting forward. So says the six getting forward. Everybody getting forward. The ball's going to turn over. There's going to be transition moments. You don't commit that early foul. Sometimes you just can't. It just doesn't turn over that way. You're not able to. You're going to have 2v2s, sometimes 3v2s, and you're asking your defenders to do a lot because they're the kind of the profile of center backs that you want. And in doing that, sometimes they're going to make mistakes. The one that Campbell made yesterday was one that he can't make. It's a cross. It's well worked on the right side by Miami, play Yedlin through. He gets to the end line, puts in a dangerous cross, but it really looked like Campbell just lost it. He got turned on it, which you can't get turned
also
that way.
Campana making a stupid good touch and finish. Like,
oh no, at the end of it, sure, but he shouldn't have got it. Campbell should have played it away first. You got punished for the mistake. That's what happens. It drives you crazy on a day where you're struggling to hit the back of the net, even with all the chances and shots that you're getting. Marsman had a good day for them. I know you're not allowed to say that, but it's true. It drives you nuts. And when you make those mistakes in a game like this, they're more glaring. They're far more glaring. If this is a 3-2 or 3-1 win for Atlanta United and that mistake happens, you're not zeroing in on it as much. When you're not finding the back of the net very often, those mistakes are amplified.
Yeah, it's also this weird thing where for me it was frustrating because Miami was getting stretched apart as well in this game. Like, there's moments in that game where you see what can happen when Almeida and Moreno are playing together, when they're working together, interchanging, finding space, playing off of each other, and they're breaking up. And there's times they're pulling apart Miami's defense, like they're sitting next to a black hole, and they're just basically a spaghettification of Miami's defense. Like, you put Miami under a lot of pressure. They got sideways a couple times, and you only punished them once. However, you were punished for your mistakes, and the easy feeling, I guess, for me at times is just like, man, that's not fair. It happens, but I mean, you got to be clinical and frontal when you get those chances and to kill things off. But it does get that frustrating feeling of, they made mistakes and we didn't punish them, but we made mistakes and they were able to punish us, and that's tough to swallow.
Yeah, because I didn't feel like Miami was secure defensively. They were very scrambling at times, and
I thought Atlanta. If you think, depending on how you feel about the Marcelino Moreno non-call in the box in the first half, I thought Atlanta could have been. I thought coulda, woulda, should have been up, 2-3-1 at that point.
Yeah, 100%. The first one, I didn't get replays of either one. We didn't have a monitor in the booth, and the video screens at Drive Pink Stadium aren't very big. So I couldn't get a good look at the first one. I don't even know if they showed the first one on the board. They did show the second one, but I couldn't see anything from it. I have seen the second one, at least the video and the highlight package of it. And I was more riled up about the second one than the first. It was a little bit closer for me to see live as well. The first one, from our vantage point, is in the far corner to my left. The second one was in the near corner to my right. I was able to get a better spot of it. The first one was close in my mind. Again, watching it live, I know people have seen the video and been able to go full Sabruder on it. The second one, I immediately thought it was a penalty because I was watching, as much as contact low, I was watching Noah Allen's hands. And he grabs Lennon, not at the beginning of it where there's hand checking as Lennon gets through him, but grabs him as he's coming across with the lower body. And that's a penalty for me. The fact that it is recommended to be reviewed. We don't know what Jose Carlos Rivero specifically said. We have not heard the video of that. But it was at a minimum said, hey, Jair Marufo, you need to look at this. I don't know if Rivero said it's a penalty, you should look at it and make the call, or if he said, look, you might want to look at this, depending on how you felt. We don't know if Marufo said anything initially. We don't know. So you have to give a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But the fact that he looks at it and then doesn't give the penalty after it's been sent down, that is very rare. That's not a subjective thing to say. Like, it's very rare. Generally, when it's sent down for the referee to look at, they agree with what is being recommended by it being sent down, which I think is a safe assumption here. Wasn't given. Pretty surprised by that one. And look, would that have changed everything? We don't know. That would give you a penalty with the opportunity to make it 2-2. Would it have finished 2-2? Would it have finished 2-1 with Marsman making a save, or Moreno, who I would assume would have taken it, then saved or put it over the bar, or put it wide? Like, we don't know. We don't know any of that. But to add to the chances that were created and the XG, to add to all of that, 2 penalty shouts that got long reviews, one of them getting looked at the monitor, that just adds to this layer of frustration, right?
Yeah, and I mean, looking at both, my gut reaction was that they were both penalties. You had Lowe basically pushing his way through Marcelino Moreno. At least that was my perspective looking at it. And yes, I admit that I went full Zapruder after the fact.
Yeah.
But at full speed, it looked like Lowe was pushing his way through Marcelino Moreno. Moreno falls. That, to me, is a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the second one, you had the hand fighting at the beginning, but then you have Noah Allen coming around with his left foot and basically kicking Brooks Lennon shin slightly below the left knee, and then Lennon falls from that contact. And that, to me, was a penalty. So I thought it was 2 for 2. But like I said, once again, hindsight being 20/20, Zapruder film and all that kind of stuff. But initially, looking at both, before VAR in both cases, I thought they were both penalties, Jared.
Yeah, I did too. The first one, I guess I saw the first one as I think that's a penalty. They didn't give it. I can live with that. It was
early in the game too.
Yeah, El Mataflow. It's one of those where Moreno's running in. I forget who the defender was. Is kind of on the outside, and Moreno Moreno steps in front of him, and then there's another step, and then it's kind of shoulder to back, where Moreno kind of steps in front to try and establish position. It's a tricky one because it's kind of, I guess the way I see it personally is it's kind of like the concept of a charge in basketball, where you need to have position established as that attacking player with the defender closing down, because if you don't, then what's the defender supposed to do when he's in the air, when he's in mid stride? My issue with that, the other end of that issue though for me is, we've seen that called a lot of times outside the box, and it's the idea, is a foul inside the box versus outside the box, where an attacker knows a defender's coming, can reposition their body and absorb the blow and take the contact. And we consider that a lot of times just being a very aware attacker. Does the same thing apply in the box? If Moreno knows he's coming on that outside and steps to the left to put his body between the ball and the defender and then takes a hit from the defender, does that fall in that category? The second one for me was that one was, and I think like social media was pretty much unanimous in their
one
disbelief.
Thing really quick on the first one, was something you said at the end that I want to touch on. There has not been, I think maybe sometimes in the U.S. because we're very England centric, the Premier League came out with a decree before the season last August of not wanting to give penalties. And I don't have the official verbiage in front of me. Not wanting to give penalties to guys who are looking for them, basically. That hasn't been said in Major League Soccer. That's not an IFAB thing. That's not a FIFA thing. That's not a worldwide thing. That was a Premier League thing. They didn't want to give soft penalties, essentially, is what they were trying to say.
And I guess I'll build off of
I don't think in either one the player was really looking for the penalty. The Lennon one, I know what Jair Marufo said. That's how he felt, was he was looking for it. But that it doesn't factor into the decision.
Statement, so
yeah, I do too, because this isn't the Premier League. If it was the Premier League and you say that, you're actually responding to a decree by your referee governing body at the beginning of the season. That hasn't been said in Major League Soccer. Now, maybe it's been said behind the scenes. Maybe it's super secret memo. I don't know. But that hasn't been said publicly about, well, if they're looking for contact, we're not going to give the penalty. I didn't get the sense Lennon was looking for contact anyway, by the way. I think knowing you're going to get hit and looking for contact are two different things.
Yeah, because I think he described it as, Lennon's leaning forward. He's looking for contact. He's leaning forward because he's running past a guy. He just beat him on the dribble.
Sprinting, yeah.
And honestly, what it reminds me of is the clip I posted because I like to make Nick happy sometimes. The famous Kaká goal in Manchester United, where he takes the one touch, rainbow flicks it, and then leans between two guys, heads it forward, and then runs past as they run into each other. That you win that dribble, and your first move is to lean forward, get your body away, so there's nothing to reach for. You want to get past that guy. It's the same thing in football. If you juke somebody or break a tackle, you're not running straight up and down with the idea of, great, he missed, now I can carry on my merry way. You're getting your body as far away as possible. You're leaning, you're twisting, you're doing what you can so they don't have anything to grab.
You don't run leaning back or not leaning. Like, there's very few runners that I've ever seen in my life in anything that run not leaning forward. So, like, I know Marufo's quote specifically, and great job, Joe Patrick, for getting this on Twitter. The quote directly from Marufo, and this is from Joe Patrick's Twitter: Brooks Lennon is anticipating the contact and is already leaning forward. There was not enough contact for a penalty, in my opinion. The second part, that's the decision that referees have to make. That's fine. That's his judgment. Okay. I disagree, but fine. The first part has nothing to do with it. And it's a little surprising that that's even put out there, because if you feel like there wasn't enough contact for a penalty, the first part means nothing. Why is that part of the response? Because, yes, you're a soccer player. You've played at a high level. Brooks Lennon knows what he's doing in this game. Brooks Lennon beats a player on the dribble. He's getting in behind them. He's looking for a shot or a cross. But is he anticipating contact? Duh, is my response to that. Yeah, because he's been around the block a few times. He doesn't know what kind of contact. He doesn't. What that statement, in my opinion, plants in your brain is the thing that people will gripe about with Trae Young, where you'll run in front. We see this all the time in soccer as well, where you get in front of somebody and you slow down and draw contact from behind. Lennon didn't do anything like that. Like, that wasn't part of this situation, unless I completely saw it differently than everybody else. So the anticipating contact thing, yes, of course he is, because he knows there's a defender there. He's leaning forward because he's running. You're not leaning forward because you're anticipating contact. If you're anticipating contact and you want to draw a penalty, you ain't leaning forward. If the contact's coming from behind you, which is where the only place the contact will be coming from here, right? I mean, if I'm out of line logically here, trying to break this down, please tell me. If he thinks he's anticipating contact, he would have slowed down.
Mm-hmm.
He would have leaned back, which is hard to do when you're running. But anyway, he would have done something to make the contact more. But he's not doing that. There is contact. If you feel like there wasn't contact enough for a penalty, that's the referee's prerogative. I disagree in this because of the grabbing at the top of it, but not at the top of the play, at the top of the body. I think he's grabbing him up high and then comes across him. The second part, that's the referee's decision. The first part is adding to something that has nothing to do with, and I have no idea why that sentence was even given, because that makes no sense. He's not trying to draw a penalty, which I think is what the first sentence is trying to make you think. I don't think there was anything about trying to draw a penalty there. Should have been a penalty, in my opinion. And it seems like everybody else's opinion. And then it's a different game. It's at least a penalty with an opportunity to make it 2-2. Who knows?
Yeah. It's it's one of those that it's disappointing because you felt like you did enough before that, creating chances that, man, feels like should have been a game you won without that, and you didn't. And then you get, we talked about this a little bit in the pre-show, and this goes back to 2018 when Atlanta United was winning penalties a lot because you had, Joseph at his peak, you had other skill players in the box who were playing really, really well. And what you do is you get in the box and you create those really tense 1v1 situations with the defender. You're asking the defender to be perfect. And a lot of times they're not going to be perfect because it's hard and they're making mistakes and you're capitalizing on them by getting to the spot. Like, so I do not want to hear a damn word about like, we shouldn't need to rely on penalties, this, that, and the other. Well, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. This U.S. national team talk that we get into sometimes about like the whole Panama situation going back to the failed World Cup qualifying. No, don't pretend you don't get to use excuses. You can feel like we should have done better and you should have done better and you should have won without needing them. But just because something went against you doesn't mean you have to like, put on the stiff upper lip and keep calm and carry on nonsense. No. You create those opportunities because your attacker wins a 1v1 and the defender makes a mistake. They weren't punished for it. That sucks. Yeah, you got to move on, but don't pretend like, well, we didn't get it, so we can't be
you can't talk
upset
about a controversial penalty decision.
Yeah, we can't talk about it. We can't be upset about it because it shouldn't have mattered, but it did matter because you're potentially sending Marcelino Moreno to the spot, who I think, if I'm not mistaken, Alec Cann's save was the first one he's had saved from the spot in MLS.
It was.
Marcelino Moreno's been damn near automatic in MLS from the spot. So I don't want to hear about, I don't want to hear any of the pull yourself up by your bootstraps, stiff upper lip. We can't use excuses. The hell you can't. Everyone else does too. It's okay. Sports happen.
Talking about an incident in a game's not using an excuse, and we do have to separate that.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback that as I wrap my ranting up to what I talked about with Pilgrim yesterday. And we were talking about the way that Pro is going to react to this, because I don't know if they're going to release their little video where Greg Barkley stands up there and
you have to
they play the clips.
You have to in a situation where it's sent down to
there have been times they haven't done it before.
I know, but this is not random times where we don't know. This is one that was sent down and looked at by the referee and then not given. If they don't show this one, don't do the show, because this needs an explanation. And the explanation could be that the referee got it right. Pro can say that. That's fine. It's a judgment call and people are going to disagree. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're going to show videos of how things happen or write articles about how things happen, this is why. Because people look at that and say it's sent down, it should be a penalty, right? Oh, it's not? Why? You have to explain it.
Yeah, and I promise you I'm probably going to disagree with it. That's okay. People are going to disagree with it. Other people are going to say, okay, that makes sense. But that amount of transparency, I think, would go a long way with Pro. You already have these conversations we have in the past about, it feeling like, officials aren't being punished or aren't being held accountable. I shouldn't say punished. Aren't being held accountable. But now you have an opportunity for them to explain how it was. You don't even have to just push out the audio, and they usually do with those videos.
Yeah.
But if they choose not to, and they say, here's the explanation, here is a detailed explanation from the head of Pro as to why this happened. Probably not going to agree with it. That's okay. But I think you go a long way towards helping your own cause by explaining that and adding some transparency. Because people are, you're not going to change people's minds. That's okay. It's not the end of the world. But adding some transparency, I think, will go a long way with fans, because part of the grumpus about it is, hey, we felt like that was wrong. Will we know? I don't know. Will we get a public comment? I don't know. Yeah, will we hear about it from Darren Eales this week? You know what? All signs point to yes.
Yeah, they have to. I mean, in a situation like that one, which we don't see very often, with it being shown on a monitor and then the referee staying with the original decision, they have to walk through it, and they can say what they want. They can say that after reviewing it further, they feel like Jair Marufo should have given the penalty. They can say that no, it's a judgment call and it's in the hands of the referee. And look, it's in the hands of one of the most experienced referees and one of the highest rated referees in Pro and in MLS. Just like we talked about with young players, young player makes a mistake doesn't mean they're a bad player. Jair Marufo, and this is a judgment call. and his judgment is different than everybody else, doesn't mean he's a bad ref. We got to stop doing that. He is who he is, and he gets the assignments that he gets because he's very good. He refs the kind of games that I think FIFA generally wants. That's why he's a FIFA ref. He doesn't call a lot of fouls. He doesn't throw a lot of cards. He tries to let the game have a rhythm and play it out. He's consistent in that way. I had no problem with the way he managed the match. The 2 penalty decisions were controversial. The Yedlin situation, I think, should have been a yellow to Yedlin. That's the only other one that I really had a gripe about. But those are incidents. The way he managed the match as a whole, he's consistent. He's going to let you play. He's going to let some minor contact go. And look, maybe that factors into his decision here. Again, you can disagree with him. You can feel like it should have been something different. But that doesn't make him a bad ref. It doesn't make Pro bad because Jair Marufo had a call that people disagree with. But that all being said, because Jair Marufo is the best referee in MLS, in my opinion, there's not.
I don't want it to be an indictment of Marufo.
There's others who are very good. Yeah, it can't be, but that's where we go with referees. I mean, anytime a referee does something we don't like, it's horrible. That's not the case here. But the explanation does have to be given. Otherwise, just discontinue the video situation where you're breaking things down and discontinue the written article on the website about explaining these things. Because if you skip this and don't want to give the explanation, then you're doing a disservice to the league and you're doing a disservice to the fans. It doesn't mean you have to explain that he made a mistake. I want that to be clear. It's a judgment call, in my opinion. And if that's what ultimately happens in it, is he made the judgment it wasn't a penalty, Rivero felt like it was and wanted him to take a look, and he did, and he still felt like his original judgment was correct, then fine. It's a judgment call. It's how much contact you're going to allow. How, are you going to allow that to happen in that situation? Marufo generally is going to err on the side of allowing a little bit of contact. Okay, I disagree. That's fine, but I need the mechanics of how he got there, because you just don't see that situation very often.
And my time is winding down for this hour anyway. I may try and reinvade. It's a good point to make, though, that it is a judgment call with that, because this isn't like offside where it's black and white.
It's not like did he touch him? Did he not touch him? Marufo did set that up in his initial.
Yeah, and I always love that. We're like, he may be offside, so let's give it to him. No, offside's a black or white decision.
Yeah.
This is not the same as that. And I guess my epilogue to all that being, look, you should have done it. You did enough creatively, and you should have been better in front of goal to where this shouldn't have mattered. Yeah. You made mistakes in that game that cost you, and this the penalties are frustrating, but you created enough in that game for it not to matter, and that is ultimately more frustrating because it's a game where, like I said, like it's God, I think it was the really bad Hercules movie where Ian McShane, our Lord and Savior Ian McShane, is standing on a field. And he's like waiting to. He's convinced that like his destiny is to die in battle. He stands there, holds his arms out as the volley of arrows come, and they all just land next to him, and they don't hit him. Kind of felt for me that was kind of like how Miami was on defense. Like Miami stood there with arms open. They asked you to bury them, and you didn't do it. And they wandered around wondering, "There's a lot of arrows on the ground, and none of them are in me." You had those opportunities, and you didn't bury them, and that's, I guess, for me, the bigger issue is, and the bigger disappointment is, disappointed with the non-calls on the penalties, but you created enough and you were punished on your individual mistakes that, if those things aren't happening, you should be able to go in there, and in that situation, because this is not always going to be across the board, when we say you shouldn't have needed A, B, and C, they shouldn't have needed a penalty. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Like I said, this weekend was weird in MLS. I know you get into it tomorrow with Dylan, but Seattle blew 2 separate 2-goal leads. LAFC had to claw back into a game against Cincinnati, who I still can't fully figure out. I like Cincinnati and what they've got going on, I think, but I'm still not 100% on that. I don't really like Cincinnati feels like I'm walking through the forests of Mirkwood, and I don't really like there's an energy here that I don't recognize. It's kind of weird. Like this whole weekend was kind of weird, man.
Toronto had a 2-0 lead and then ended up giving up 5 goals.
And then
tried to come back.
Yeah, New York City had to hang on in stoppage time.
Yeah,
it almost blew a 5-2 lead in 6 minutes. It was it was a weird weekend. It was a beautiful weekend for the chaos of the league. It's disappointing result didn't go your way. You got to keep doing what you're doing, and Montreal's going to. And also, as I guess this will be my final thing. I promise.
Okay.
We talk all the time about travel in MLS. The concept of distance in the United States versus Europe is different. In the same way, the concept of time in the United States versus Europe is different. A 500-year-old building in France, we just kind of go, cool, that's Bill's house over there. Don't worry about it. A 500-year-old house here, we put posts up around it. You can't go inside of it. You can look at it. Little kids are going to throw rocks at it. Their parents are going to take them and not give them ice cream on their vacation.
I don't think there is a 500-year-old house in the United States.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, that'd be kind of difficult there, Jarrett.
Okay, in the formal United States, I get it. If you're counting it as the founding of an official country, whatever.
Oh, no. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway,
Jarrett, continue.
The concept of distance is the same. The concept of distance is the same thing. We discuss it all the time with East-West with, so-and-so has to go from the East Coast to the West Coast. Hey, man, Atlanta's about to pull off one of the most underratedly difficult and physically annoying travels you can possibly do. Schedule makers did him no favors because guess where you're going after Miami? That's right. You're going as far north as you can possibly go to play a damn game of soccer in MLS. You've gone from Miami to Montreal. It's a long way to fly. I know you get to come back to Atlanta and train during the week. Next time I see a club from Europe, it doesn't have to just be England. Don't get me wrong. Any club from Europe complain about how we have to travel. It's an 800-mile, sojourn across, uphill both ways, across the snow and across the Alps. Next time I hear y'all say that, I'm gonna point to, regular season game in Miami. 7 days later, 6 days later, regular season game in Montreal. I don't want to hear about it. Distance is different than it is across the Atlantic.
Okay. Thanks, Jarrett.
You're welcome.
We might see you later, I guess.
Oh, I'm
sure.
Yeah.
Might.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Bye. All right, John, it's time for you to tell everybody about our good friends over at Eliminize.
I can certainly do that. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's Eliminize service, QR code over my left shoulder. For those of you watching on Twitch, deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos, Eliminize has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet, cigarettes, or food. Realtors and property managers use the Eliminize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent those facilities that much faster. It's a turnkey process, which makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. Eliminize service, kind of the environment, a very green way to go about things. We like that these days to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than our favorite masking agents, because those masking agents under the sink, all they do is mask the odor. They don't attack the problem. That's what Eliminize service does with a proven scientific formula, attacking the issue all the way down to the molecule. Pricing's easy, one of two ways, either by the cubic foot or parts per million, to make it easy for you and come up with a price that's affordable, offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, go to the website, eliminize.com, but do us a favor here at SDH. After the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from. So, the full request, ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, eliminize.com /Atlanta. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, Eliminize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH.
Nicely done. Got a little bit of news this morning. Noah Cobb, who we talked about last week, going up to the U19 national team for an upcoming camp. Tyler Wolf with the U20s. David Mejia has been called up again by the Peruvian U20 squad. They will take on Uruguay May 2nd and May 5th. Then they will go to Argentina for matches on May 10th and 12th. I believe they're getting ready for CONMEBOL U20 championship play. Tyler Wolf getting ready for CONCACAF U20 championships. Noah Cobb with the U19s, that's kind of it's an interesting group because they don't have a World Cup at U19. It's a way to get some of the younger guys in the flow for the U20 pool, and Noah could play his way into that or could be part of the next U20 group. So be on the lookout. But Cobb and Mejia both going away on youth national team duty, and Tyler Wolf will as well.
Very, very cool to continue to see Atlanta United players being recognized for all the hard work that they're putting in, hard work being one of the themes in our number one, but seeing Noah Cobb and David Mejia, Tyler Wolf, all these guys getting those reps at the national level. Very, very cool to see.
Yeah, there was a football talent scout, F Talent Scout on Twitter, which is a good follow for especially young talents on the way up. They broke down the percentage of minutes played by academy graduates in the top 5 leagues in Europe this season. Them along with CIES Football Observatory. And Athletic Club in Bilbao in Spain is the one that has the most. They have a very strong limitation, if you don't know, on who plays for them. It's players from the Basque region. So 55.8% of the minutes that players have played in first team action for Athletic Club have been from their academy. That's incredible. That's also a little understandable. Real Sociedad, not far behind, 43.9. Celta Vigo, 41.2. So 3 Spanish clubs at the top. Top English club is actually Manchester United at 27.6. Chelsea's next at 25.4. Tottenham at 17.9 rounds out in the top 5 European leagues, I think the top 20. Atlanta United this season, with the academy product minutes that they've played, it's 14.1%. That's probably not the highest in MLS with some other clubs that have produced more. I'd be willing to gamble that it is the highest of clubs who have joined the league since 2015. Younger academy, just there's less time to develop players. So pretty impressive. And a lot of that's George Campbell, but Tyler Wolf also involved in that. Jackson Conway also involved in that. Caleb Wiley also involved in that. 1,118 minutes from academy products for Atlanta United this season out of the total number of minutes of players on the field, and 14.1%. That's just off of 17.9 for Tottenham. Not bad. Not bad. I saw that stat and I was like, well, I wonder where Atlanta falls. And it's not bad. So when you see these young kids getting called up to youth national teams and you're seeing them play in MLS, the academy's doing work and there's more coming. And yes, you want your young players to not make mistakes that can cost you games, of course, but you also can't be afraid of them making those mistakes and then not playing them. That doesn't help you either. So it is a balancing act. I think the academy has done great work and is doing even better work as you continue to mature and learn new things, and the institutional knowledge continues to grow. All right, what do we have on the Twitch pitch?
Well, we've got Twitch and Twitter. So
what do we have on the Twitter pitch and the Twitch pitch and all the pitches?
All right, so we'll go in the discussion. Yes, so dangerous proposition.
I know.
All of the discussion we were having in hour number one, Alex Pacine first in this morning, and he says the constant with this team has been that we've been punished against the run of play for mistakes over and over again. Some of that is on not eliminating those few mistakes. Hard to reach 0 mistakes in life, and part of it is a bit of bad luck.
Yeah, I mean, it's the game, and I will, again, always come from the position of be on the front foot, control games, dictate the play. Would much rather see a team do that because I think you give yourself more chances to win than what Jose Mourinho, and he's one who specifically talked on this. That's why I bring him up here. Jose Mourinho was more like that. I mean, he did work at Barcelona for a good while, and you look at his early Chelsea teams in England, he didn't sit back and just defend. But over time, he did start to do that. And he said, and I was trying to find the quote immediately. I can't find it, of course. He said roughly, I'm paraphrasing here, that the more you have the ball, the more mistakes you can make. That's why he didn't want the ball as his team, as he's kind of aged and his perspective has changed. He's gotten very risk averse. I don't think that's the way to success, personally. And I think as he's gotten more risk averse, just for him, he's been less successful. I don't feel like that's the way if you're going to have a team that's talented. And look, I know in MLS you're going to have parity, and you can bring that up, and that's fine. You're going to have parity, so you shouldn't try to play this way because you're not going to be that much better than anybody, or you're not going to have players like Barcelona or Manchester City, so you can't try to play that way. I disagree on both accounts, because the more you control games, the more you're going to win in the long run. That's why performances are important, and you have to separate them from results at times. If you're playing well, you're going to win more. If you're controlling the game, you're going to win more. If you're creating more chances than the opposition, you're going to win more. If you're taking more shots on target, all those things, you're going to win more. It doesn't mean you win every game, but you're going to win more in the long haul. And that long haul can be a season. That long haul can be a manager's career at a club. You're going to win more if you play that way. If you are a less talented team and you can't do that, and you decide, hey, we're going to sit back and we're going to defend, and that's how we're going to give ourselves more of a chance to win, it doesn't mean you're going to win more than everybody else. It means that's your best chance to get there. Atlanta's not going to be in that situation. I would not ever expect. I want them to be a team that takes risks, which is, again, what I think most people have said they want, because you don't get to the magical 4-3 win that is seemed to be up on some mountaintop here, where you don't score 4 goals by not creating a lot of chances and not creating a lot of shots. And also, if you're going to give up 3, you're probably making some mistakes along the way too, right? You can't get there if you don't play this way. And if that's the goal that people say they want, then you have to play this way. And yes, the trade-off is sometimes goals don't come because it's hard. It's very hard to score goals in this game. It drives you crazy when you don't, especially when you're playing well and you don't. If you're not creating many chances, you're not scoring goals. Kind of like, yeah, I get it. When you're creating this number of chances and you're not scoring goals, you don't get it. It drives you nuts. So I think they're doing the right things. I think Gonzalo Pineda is doing really good work. And anybody going at Pineda about this, I got nothing. I got nothing for you, because that's foolish. He controls how the style is developed. He controls how the tactics on the day are laid out. He controls naming starting lineup. And that's it. He doesn't play the game. And you can tell from the way that these games are playing out, from the production that you are getting in everything but goals, that he's getting the style. He's getting the philosophy. He's getting the tactics. He's getting those things right. Gotta convert. You just gotta convert. That's what it comes down to. And you hope in a situation like this where you're creating all these chances that when they do start to fall, they come in bunches. And I feel like this is that kind of a team. I feel like that's going to happen, and they're going to break out and get this, because I don't see them struggling to create chances on a regular basis, not with the way that they play and the talent that they have and what they've shown so far. So the logical thing is that eventually these chances are going to come good, and this play is going to come good. And that's over a long haul. That's not one game. That's not 190 minutes. That's not 290 minutes. That's not 390 minutes. It's the long haul of doing this. And I think Gonzalo Pineda is creating a style and a philosophy that builds off everything that's been here before. It's not some crazy departure. And it is a style that can win, and I think will win. But got to get somebody hot scoring goals. Got to get some goals. That's just what it comes down to.
Burned in for the first time this morning as a part of the conversations that he's been having. He says, I think Atlanta played a good game, but the collective reaction after giving up the second goal was not very good. They stopped moving the ball, and everybody tried by themselves / stopped what had worked before with rotations, etc.
I didn't get that sense as much at all, honestly. Yeah, late. As it got later, I think you had some of that, and I think Araujo brings you a little bit more of that too, and that's his game, and you're not gonna take that out of him, and you shouldn't. As you get very late, yeah, I think Burned, and you know this, I think you have to. It's not that you're being more individual; it's just that you got to make a play happen. But I didn't get the sense after the second goal for a long time. I didn't get the sense after the second goal came in the 64th. I didn't get the sense until very late that you had guys who were trying to find a way to pull it level. I didn't get that sense. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't have the statistical breakdown of from the 64th minute what they did and what they created and what that looked like. In general, in the second half, they created 14 shots. So 14 of their 20 were in the second half. 4 of their 7 shots on target were in the second half. 3 big chances total. 1 of those was in the second half. Okay. They had 86% passing versus 91 in the first. You're being a little riskier there. You had 73% of the ball. Miami dropped off before they got the second goal. They moved to a 5-3-2-ish, kind of 5-4-1. And then when they got the goal and they made the further changes, they went totally into a 5-4-1. Which gives you more of the ball, which gives you less chance to combine, and it kind of evolved over time. But I didn't think it was a bad reaction to going down 2-1 and them going away from their tactics. I didn't feel that. I could be wrong. The numbers could back you up, Burn, but I didn't feel that in the game. I didn't get that sense.
Couple of points on Jair Marufo, and obviously he's been a big talking point in the Twitch this morning.
He's a big guy. I mean, in terms of he's been in these pressure pack situations before. He knows the drill. You make a big call in a game. He stands by it. He has to. It's okay. You got to have this conversation about him.
Will, after you mentioned the Joe Patrick pull from the quote after the match, he says, Will says, mad at the ref for that statement because he didn't see the part where Lennon was pushed in the back going down because of that. It's also on VAR for not showing it to him.
That part, I don't know. I couldn't see what VAR was showing him, and I don't know what VAR showed him. If VAR sent it down for one reason and didn't show him that, sent him down, didn't show him the reason they sent it down, that's what are you doing? Then that's a VAR issue. And that would change the conversation here, Will, if that's the case. If they did not show him the upper body contact that I felt like I saw live, that was my reaction watching it live was not that he tripped him. It was the combination of coming across the lower body and grabbing or pushing the upper body. I felt like it was the combo effect. But if they don't show him that, then it's harder to blame him for not getting to that point. Like I said in Marufo's statement, the second sentence, that's the explanation a referee has to give because it's a judgment call. And yes, you're gonna have contact pretty much all over the field. And the judgment is it enough contact to call that foul and give that penalty? The first sentence of Marufo's statement, I thoroughly disagree with. And I don't like it even being said because I think it creates a narrative that isn't part of this conversation at all. Because I don't think he's looking for the penalty by any stretch.
Will says they showed the monitor on the broadcast. All he saw was the foot contact and the upper body contact wasn't shown.
Oh, that's a problem. I mean, because the upper body contact was a big part of it for me. And if that's the way it went down, then however that happened, and that would be something that I'd love to hear the conversation. Did Marufo say, I'm only interested in this and didn't even want to look at it? It's possible. Did the AVAR not pull that clip to send it? Because that's generally where the AVAR is included. They're not like a secondary VAR. It's a more specialized thing. Did the VAR not send it? What happened? Why didn't that get sent if that's part of it? Because I felt like the upper body contact's part of it.
Bart was in hour number 1 in our Marufo discussion. He says, I know he loved to trash Pro, but Marufo needs to retire. He just couldn't keep up yesterday and his positioning was so bad.
I didn't get that sense. I wasn't watching his positioning in detail, though, and I know Bart, as a referee, you're going to be looking at that sort of thing. That's how you referees do. I didn't get that sense. I honestly didn't have a problem with the way he managed the game as a whole. I just didn't. I don't get the sense that he needs to retire. I don't know why he wasn't closer to the play at times. But I didn't notice that he wasn't. So, I mean, that's on me. I wasn't studying that part of the game. He called 19 fouls. That's his average for the season. He's called 19 per game. This was his third game. Lifetime in like 280 something games, he calls about 22 and some change per game. Gives less than 3 yellows per game. Those are both very, very low numbers. He gave a lot more yellows here than he typically does. Couple of them, 3 of them for time wasting to Miami. And he gave 6 minutes of stoppage. And he gave a couple extra for the kind of ridiculous incident with Gonzalo Higuain acting like his leg was going to fall off. So I don't have a problem with that. He got that stuff right. He managed the game the way he manages the game, and you can like it or not like it, but it's consistent. I'll have to look more closely, Bart, at could he not keep up, or did he take different positions than normal? I haven't ever had the feeling that he can't keep up with the play. So if this was it, I don't know. Is he carrying an injury or something going on? Like, I have no idea. I mean, it was kind of hot, kind of humid, but not enough for even hydration breaks. It wasn't uncomfortable by any stretch. So I don't know why that would have been the case.
Wiley Coyote with a question. Are there stats on how often VAR calls are sent down and reversed/upheld by the ref?
I'm sure somebody has done that. We kind of guesstimated on the call yesterday that like 3 out of 4 times it's given, whatever is being sent down is given. I think it might be higher than that, honestly. It probably varies league to league, but it's very rare. What game was it that I saw recently where I want to say it was Argentina as they're introducing VAR, and it was the first time I'd seen this where a referee is buzzed and recommended to go look at the monitor, and he goes and he's kind of ticked off that he's even being recommended to go to the monitor, and you can see him like pointing at the monitor and loudly yelling in his headset to whoever the VAR is, like, no, like he's arguing with the VAR for even sending it down, and he doesn't go with it. I think it was an Argentine game. Feels like that'd be an Argentine game. It's not common by any stretch, and that's why they have to explain how it happened. They don't have to say he made a mistake. That's not what I am saying. I feel like he did. They don't have to say that. It's a judgment call. And if you want to explain it from pro, because they're going to spin it, we know it's going to get spun one way or another. That's what they do. I wish they wouldn't spin as hard. I wish they would just give the explanation. And the explanation here is very easy. If it is a judgment call from the referee, was there enough contact for a penalty? Was it a foul in the box? And he says no. And then he's recommended to look at it, and he still looks at it and says no. That's fine. That's the explanation. But what I want to know now is, why wasn't upper body contact talked about? Was that ruled out initially by Marufo? Was it not sent? Did the VAR not spot it? What happened there? And how did the conversation go? That needs to be explained. It doesn't need to be said that he's wrong. I'm really trying to nail that down, because that's not what I'm calling for. I'm not asking for pro to rebuke him. I'm asking for them to explain how we got to that point. That incident happens, it's reviewed, it's recommended for an on-field review, which more often than not, then the call on the field's overturned. This one was not. So tell us how we got there. That's what I want to hear from pro this week.
Will said, start of the feed. This is on Lennon again. Start of the feed had Lennon already pitched forward, which in his opinion contributed to the first sentence from Marufo.
Yeah, but the when my incident with Marufo saying it is that you're then planting a seed that he's looking for the penalty, and I did not get that sense. I don't think he's leaning forward looking for the penalty.
Right, and then so secondly, Will says, you have to give Lennon a simulation yellow, don't you? If you're going to say the first part.
Yeah, but they don't. I mean, we know that they don't. I wish they would more. I really do wish that they would more if you want to get simulation out of the game, which I think this has nothing to do with simulation. I can continue to drill that point home. I don't think that's what happened here. But if you want to get rid of it and you don't like it and you're a referee, then yeah, you throw the yellow for it. And they don't do it enough. They frankly don't do it enough. And that's something that I would love to see, whether it is retroactive or in live action. I think it needs to be in live action more, and it's very rare. But I would love to see that happen more. And this is something that I've griped about a lot since last year, and I will continue to, where they go back on 2 incidents and fine Ezequiel Barco, who's one of the most fouled players in the history of Major League Soccer. And they don't go back and find Patrick Klimala from the Red Bulls. And the reason I bring him up is I watched both of these incidents where he grabs his face trying to get somebody sent off. And it's simulation, and he's not fined for that. Barco's fined for jumping out of the way of challenges, and they want to say that's simulation. Okay, then why don't you pay for his rehabilitation with whatever injury he suffers from not trying to avoid the challenge? Like, that consistency has to get cleaned up. I would love to see referees decide, you know what? We don't want people to go down in the box easily. Let's give a yellow card for it. It's in the rules. Do it. If they'd given it here, I would have been apoplectic, because I don't think Brooks Lennon is in any way trying to draw a penalty. But that first statement, yeah, that's what it sounds like he's setting up in his argument.
Pilgrim says, to that point, how is Marufo going to be held accountable? If they determine he was wrong egregiously, what happens? So I guess we could take this to a general point. If a center ref has a mistake, how are they held accountable in these situations?
We've had this conversation. They're generally not booked if it's an egregious mistake. But again, referees are going to make mistakes. Like, it's the same thing that I'm saying about George Campbell, where I think at times yesterday the conversation went from he made a mistake on the field to he shouldn't even be playing for the first team. And no, that's making a gigantic leap. Jair Marifo should be reffing in MLS, in my opinion. Bart doesn't agree, but I think he should be reffing in MLS. He's reffing. Probably going to be at the World Cup. Okay. Did he make a mistake here? I feel like he did. But he's not somebody who makes a ton of mistakes. I think there has to be like a bar here. Is this an egregious one? No, it's not even an egregious one, because it is a judgment call. It's not like some of the other mistakes that we've seen where, for example, the VAR in the Atlanta-Nashville game last year, where Jake Mulroney is sent off, and the VAR did not do their job properly, and he was the one who was publicly rebuked. He was not assigned to games for a while. Now, that wasn't publicly announced that he was being suspended or whatever, but he didn't do games for a while. And he's doing games this year. I don't know when he came back. I don't know how many games he missed. The fourth, who screwed up the situation with DC in Atlanta in 2020 on the substitution, I haven't seen his name pop back up ever. But I think he was getting those assignments a little bit based on COVID and travel and all those kinds of things. I think he was a somewhat local guy who was not really quite at that level. They get punished, but we don't hear enough. The only time I ever remember about Pro announcing a referee being punished for a mistake, and this was an egregious one, the USL game last year that had to then be restarted from that moment. Those referees, it was announced that they were not going to be working the next weekend. When it's egregious, this is not egregious to me. You don't have to go get a pound of flesh on Jair Marufo if he judged this differently, and Pro can say that I would have judged it the other way. And pros generally they'll say that we feel like it should have went this way. We feel like the referee shouldn't have done this. They'll say that, but I don't feel like this is an incident where Jair Marufo should be suspended for a game at all. If they didn't show him the upper body contact, then I definitely don't feel like he should be suspended for a game. Maybe the VAR should. And he's a very experienced guy. Refs will make mistakes. They're not robots. They're human beings. They have bad days just like everybody else. I don't think this gets to that level. It's a judgment call. It is purely a judgment call. It's not a misapplication of the laws of the game. It's not a misunderstanding of something. It's not missing something. It's a judgment call. He feels like it wasn't a penalty. If Pro or Howard Webb or whoever feels like it was, well, they're probably going to have to make that statement because of how this does kind of stand as an outlier of it going to an on-field review and then not being given. They're going to have to say something about it. But I don't think that means Jair Marufo should be punished. No, it's not the same as misapplying a law of the game to me at all. This is a judgment call which referees have to make in the heat of the moment a lot. You have to be realistic about it. They're gonna miss some. You can't suspend everybody because they miss a call. You can suspend them when they misapply the laws of the game or they don't do their job as the VAR properly. Things like that. That's where you have to suspend them. If they look at something like this, again, total judgment call. If they look at something and it's a studs up challenge to the kneecap and they say it's a yellow card, yeah, okay, that's a different thing. That's a judgment call, but I'm questioning your judgment. This one, it's a judgment call, and if you feel like you got it wrong, and you move on. I don't think it's anything more than that.
A couple of things from the on the field that we were discussing about the match. Bart was a bit concerned about how little Gutman got forward. Do you think that was due to Yedlin?
No, it wasn't due to Yedlin. It's the way that they were building up the play, and I think it was more exaggerated because of the loss of Brad Kazan. We talked about Bobby Shuttleworth not being a goalkeeper who's played in these kinds of situations very often, asking him to be involved in build-up play. He hasn't played on teams that do that. Generally, the teams that he's played on, it's like kick the thing as far away as you possibly can. It's kryptonite. Shuttleworth in this game, 20 of 22 passing. That's around his general average of 22 passes per game. Brad, in his last couple of years in Atlanta, and honestly, he was even more involved earlier on, but he was playing longer balls. These last couple of years, he's played a lot shorter passes. He's generally in the 35 to 36 up to 38 per game. So let's take it 36-22. That's 14 passes that you got to reallocate. They did this last week, and they did it even more. I don't want to say exaggeratedly, like that's a bad thing, but they did it even more intentionally this week. The build-up phase was not what we see a lot of times with two center backs flaring out and Santiago Sosa dropping in between them. It was not that. It was Lennon going high. It was Gutman tucking in, and it was Robinson and Campbell with Sosa and SDH in front. It became a little bit of a pentagon. They weren't using Shuttleworth. Again, the number of passes, that's a real number. It's not making it up, not doing any of that. It's 22 passes. That's what he did yesterday. That's about 14 less than Brad Kazan typically does. Gutman probably got some of those. He had 47 passes on the day. I don't know what his general numbers have been this season. They did use it as a little bit of a ping to get to Sosa and SDH in different ways. But that's why he wasn't getting forward with abandon. Also, Caleb Wiley's on that left side, and Caleb Wiley's occupying Yedlin. They weren't afraid of Yedlin. It was Gutman was more involved in the buildup, and when they got him forward, it was as a result of buildup, not like Lennon, where the tactic is go high. We want to stretch the field there. We want to allow Almada to tuck in from the right side, go high, and we'll build that way, and it tilts. So that was what happened, and they've done it for 2 games now, but it was more intentional this game than last, in my opinion. Hi, Jarrett.
Hi. I didn't know if the music was going to keep going. I was just enjoying it.
No, I went with a hard cut.
I see that.
Let's continue, John.
Burned about young players. Young players will make mistakes that sometimes even cost you games. That's fine. The real issue is, will the young players learn from their mistakes and not make the same ones over and over and over again? Miles has done that, and I think Wiley will do that as well. I would argue Bello has struggled with that aspect. We will see with George Campbell.
Well, Bello's not here anymore, so it doesn't really matter. Campbell hasn't made a lot of mistakes, honestly. Like since he broke into the team last year, playing a decent number of minutes. And this year, where he's played in every game, and he's number 2 in minutes for the team this year, he hasn't made that many defensive mistakes. Again, like, just like a referee's not going to be perfect, just like nobody's going to be perfect. In the build-up phase, you got to take some risky passes from time to time. He's brought on maybe a little bit too much risk at times in possession. Okay, you can work on that. Defensively, he hasn't made very many mistakes. He made one here, made a big one. Okay. Don't do it regularly, like that. That's what you're looking to do. But yeah, you can't throw young players out when they make a mistake. You just can't. If they make consistent mistakes, they're going to lose playing time. That's just what it comes down to. I mean, not every young player is going to make it. We know that. And it's sad when they don't. I mean, because again, these are young guys who are coming through the club. These are guys that should be protected by the fan base, not being asked to be thrown out. These are guys that, you are generally rooting for. These are your hometown boys. And when they don't make it, for me, I'll tell you my personal feelings on it. I get sad. I want these guys to make it. I want all of them to make it. I want all of them to have a great career and thrive and represent Atlanta wherever they end up representing Atlanta, whether it's an Atlanta United kid or beyond. But not all of them are going to make it to the highest levels. And that's okay. I'm not worried about that with George Campbell at all. And I guess because I've praised George Campbell a lot, when he doesn't have a good day, everybody wants to tweet at me on the Bird app. My opinion on George Campbell hasn't changed. He had a bad day. It had nothing to do with him dyeing his hair either. Let's not continue that one. We had a funny on the radio broadcast because, one, it's very helpful when somebody dyes their hair very bright because you can see them very easily on the pitch. So that was good. I know Mike Conti was very appreciative of George Campbell going for the dye job. I've also always felt that when somebody will dye their hair in something very bright like that, they're generally feeling pretty good about themselves. That's good. Like that. Want that. Need these guys with a bit of swagger. That didn't lead to him losing the flight of a cross. You know what I mean? Like, he made a mistake. It's not because he was overconfident or he dyed his hair or any of those things. He made a mistake. My opinion on George Campbell's not changed. I think George Campbell is a future U.S. men's national team player. I really do. I hope he gets there. I think he's got all that potential in the world. He's 20. Played a lot of minutes as a 20-year-old. It's credit to him. Credit to the opportunities. Credit to the coaching staff believing in him. I think he's going to get more opportunities. And got to bounce back from the mistake he made yesterday. That's it. That's what it comes down to. You're muted, John. Good job. Speaking of mistakes.
Welcome back to Monday. Uncle's asking for an Ellen Franco update if George Campbell is injured for a period of time.
Day to day with an ankle is all I know at this point. I don't know if it is like a sprained ankle, if it's contact. I'm not sure. Feels like he takes a beating every time he's on the field. I don't know what it is about Alan Franco that is a magnet for contact. I hope it's not an injury for Campbell that's of any length, but yeah, I mean, I felt like watching it, because that was right in front of us, just to our left, because it was right in front of the camera side of the field, that he goes down and he immediately grabbed upper thigh. I thought it was kind of the inside of the leg, which would be the groin. Grabbed it immediately, was down, and I think it was Rob Valentino, as one of the coaches, come over and basically like, dude, if you can stand, you got to get back out there. Like, we need you because we don't have any more subs. And he gutted it out. And I mean, you could see him. He's got a hand like kind of on his leg, and he's hobbling around. And I mean, he has to commit the foul on Higuain because he can't run at that point. Higuain milks it for everything it's worth. And I hope he's not out for a period of time, but a groin pull, yeah, usually you're out for a little bit of time. And there's not much else you can do here. So next man up would be Alex DeJohn, who played good with the twos in his game with the twos. I thought he played well against Chattanooga FC. He wasn't really tested. DeJohn's somebody they believe in. DeJohn is a training ground, locker room kind of leader. He really is. I don't think people necessarily get that because he's not on the field very much. But, having him, it's important. don't be surprised. Well, Noah Cobb's going to the U19s, but if that needs to change, that might need to change. Don't be surprised if he comes up on a short term, if that's what it comes down to, because he trained with the first team all the way through preseason, and he's completely trusted by Gonzalo Pineda. So that might be a possibility. But right now, yeah, if Franco can't go, if Campbell's hurt, then you're probably turning one of two directions. You're turning to Santi Sosa as a center back, and then you got to figure out the holding midfield. We haven't seen Pineda do that, but Sosa has played center back in his time. He played it here a little bit in a 3-man. He played it at River in a 3 or a 2 center back pairing, out of necessity, but he played it some. Or you're turning to Alex DeJohn, or you're turning further to a Noah Cobb, or the only other center back you have, well, Bryce Washington would be in that mix, or Nelson Orji from the 2, so you could call up on a short term. That's what you're looking at right now. It sucks, but that's where you're at.
Malpinjo on the Twitters, and I have asked for resubmissions if I've missed anything outside of the conversations that folks are having. Malpinjo actually greatly encouraged by the attack in the final third. Combinations, runs, and nice through balls that, make the game beautiful. Will continue to get better with more time together in training.
Yeah, I think they're great. I think the way they're playing, all of that, Jarrett, leading up into the final third and into the final third has been great. You're creating shots. You're creating opportunities. You're getting shots on target. You are literally doing everything but hit the back of the net with these situations. I think it's very good. And if it gets better, look out. But it doesn't even have, the build-up play doesn't even have to get better for you to get more goals, because it's already really good.
Yeah, and I'll do the quote from everybody's favorite manager, who was here in 2019. Of, I'd be more concerned if they weren't creating the chances. You have to put them in the back of the net, though. Whether that's going to be Cisneros, whether that's going to be Dom Dwyer when he's healthy. Dom Dwyer, Open Cup legend, continues. Whether that's going to be Jackson Conway, whether that's going to be Luis when he's back on the field. Somebody's got to put it all in the back of the net. All the creativity in the world is just going to lead to more head against wall until you can put it in the back of the net. And somebody has to step up and grab those opportunities. And it's not to make a 1-for-1 comparison, but let's kind of get in the ballpark of, Campana, who was a journeyman, gets to Miami, gets the opportunities, and he's taking advantage of it.
No, not a journeyman. No. You're being very harsh on a 21-year-old Ecuadorian, calling him a journeyman.
Was it 4 teams in 2 years?
Yeah, but he's been on loan. He got signed by he developed at Barcelona in Ecuador. Yeah. He signed on a free with Wolves.
Thank you for qualifying that, so people don't think he developed in Spain, because Ecuador has a doppelganger team for half of Europe, and I love everything about it.
Yeah, he's at Barcelona in Ecuador. Contract ran out, signed on a free to Wolves, and he's loaned to Miami. He's 21. He's a kid. He's playing really, really well.
El Botafogo's mad at me. He's going to fight me.
He should. He should fight you.
I'm still supporting Ecuador in the World Cup. Calm down there.
Still should fight you. Calling him a journeyman, that's harsh.
But you want someone to grab that, whether that's Ronaldo, poking one in the yesterday, whoever it may be. Somebody's got to finish those opportunities, and somebody's got to grab those moments and run with them. And that's what you're waiting to see somebody take that and do it. I had that frustration as well. 2's review up today. I had that frustration Saturday night watching the 2s, where you get 1-2 punched by Pittsburgh. You get a couple opportunities, really good opportunities, that you don't put in the back of the net. You got to put those away, especially on the road. Yep. Especially when you're a team like the 2s. When you get those opportunities, you have to bury them, because because Pittsburgh is going to carry. Pittsburgh is going to carry the play, and Bob Lilly. There is no mercy in that man's dojo. He's going to try and snuff out the flame of your soccer 90-minute existence. And he was able to do that with Atlanta United 2 not taking advantage. So you'll create these chances. Somebody's got to step up and put it in the back of the net. And right now, it's open casting call. Ronaldo Cisneros.
I thought he was good yesterday.
Really well, he was. He was good.
I thought he was good in all phases. He created 2 chances too.
Get him more chances in front of net, and I want to see what he can. I want to see what he can continue to do. We'll see. You just got to find the right. You got to find the right fit and find the right balance of everything, and I think they'll be able to do that.
Look, you can do the searches through the English media of anytime Manchester City goes through scoring droughts, which they do, even though they're really good. Pep Guardiola says the same things that Gonzalo Pineda is saying because there's not much to say. I went back to one in early 2020, 2021 season, which I think that went pretty well for City, if I remember correctly. But early on, they weren't scoring a lot of goals. And he's like, honestly, we concede a few chances against the big clubs and we create a lot, but we miss a lot of chances. They arrive once or twice and score. We have to improve on that. Putting the ball in the net's the most difficult thing in football, and we're going to try to improve. We scored so many goals, and now we don't. I don't have an explanation. Something's missing. He said, and this is the part that I think is really important, and this is something that Gonzalo Pineda has said about Atlanta United in maybe so many words. I see the training sessions and the rhythm that we've had in the past years. We got 1 point from 2 games against Spurs, but played really well. The way I play, I like it. Not playing the way I want would be a problem. They're playing the way that Gonzalo Pineda wants. They're playing the way that they want to play. They're not scoring the goals. Everybody wants to score goals, but anybody who's ever played the game wants to score goals. You have very few people who thrive on, we're not going to let people score goals, or we don't want to score goals. We want to kick people, or no, John, that Big Sam has never once said, I don't want to score goals. Has he ever uttered those words?
Not that I'm aware of.
So why'd you mention him?
Just because of his truly negative way of playing, in my mind.
He's not trying to score goals. That's not his strategy. Just like Jim Curtin's strategy is not to not score goals, just like Jose Mourinho's strategy is to not score goals. Their strategies, very different across the board, but coming from a defensive perspective. That's what drives their strategy. It's never for any team in the world about not scoring goals. It's about, do you want the ball? Do you not want the ball? Are you afraid of having the ball? Do you crave the ball? Atlanta United, I think, is always going to be on the side of craving the ball because they want to create
get a dog.
Yeah, Big Sam's probably got a couple. Mm-hmm. But no, Big Sam doesn't not want to score goals. That doesn't make sense. How do you win games? You score goals. He's more focused because of the teams he's had, and I think his mentality, and that's probably why he gets the teams that he does. He's more focused on the opponent not scoring goals, but he in no way doesn't want to score a lot of goals with his team. But his focus is the other way, to take that away from the opponent. Jim Curtin wants to take things away from the opponent. Jose Mourinho wants to take things away from the opponent, limit risk. Pep Guardiola, Gonzalo Pineda, managers of this ilk, Xavi and others, embrace the risk because that's the way they feel the game. That's the way they feel it should be played. The clubs embrace that style. The players embrace that style. They want to create chance after chance after chance after chance, and they want to score goal after goal after goal after goal. You just can't guarantee the last part. You can't guarantee creating the chances either. Don't get me wrong. You can't guarantee anything in this game. But if you're creating the chances, you're expecting to score the goals. And that's what these teams are built on doing. And they're playing the way that they want. Atlanta United is playing the style, the game that suits the team that they're working on. They're doing all of these things and they're learning. And I think they're improving. I think this was a better game than it was last week, which was a better game than the week before, which was a better game than the week before. They won the game 4 games back against DC. They've got to continue to play better every time. The goals will come, in my opinion. They really, truly will.
A lot of positivity about Ronaldo Cisneros in the timeline, but the question from Storm Chaser Kevin, does Cisneros doing well in Dom's brace hurt the chances of bringing in Matthew Hoppe?
No, I don't think so. But I don't know if Matthew Hoppe's coming or not. Like that, I don't think that's the decision. I don't think Matthew Hoppe comes in and is better than either one of them automatically either, by the way. What has Matthew Hoppe done to show you that he would be demonstrably better than Ronaldo Cisneros or Dom Dwyer or Jackson Conway or any of them? He's had a taste of really good play. He went on a tear at Schalke. He got a move to La Liga and he's barely played. Mm-hmm. He's had some good moments with the U.S. men's national team. He's had some moments where he didn't produce. Like, I don't think it's a slam dunk that he comes in and everything's wonderful and great and sunshine and flowers and the birds are singing beautiful songs. He's an addition that I think could add some really good things to the team, but I don't think it's a guarantee that he's better than the guys that you have right now, because I don't think he's shown that enough for a longer period of time. If a team that just paid a few $1,000,000 is interested in potentially letting him go that quickly, that's usually not on a slam dunk kind of a player. Have to understand that. And I don't want the pressure if Hoppy does come to be through the roof that, oh, well, he's obviously going to score 15 goals this season. It's not a guarantee. Dwyer's brace was great. Dwyer also hasn't played 90 minutes in a game since September of 2019. He's a little bit older. He's not going to be a little bit harder for him to go game after game after game. So you're going to need another guy. If that's Cisneros, great. If that's Hoppy coming in and it's a little bit of a rotation for the hot hand, that's great too. But I don't think 2 goals from Dwyer in a game and a goal from Cisneros in a game and strong play from Cisneros rules out the move for Hoppy, just like I don't think the move for Hoppy guarantees he's the automatic starter, no questions asked.
Chris Kilroy on Twitter thought it was overall a good game, thought the Pens were tough. Lennon skied one he should have put away.
Yep, he did.
Miami got a fortunate bounce to facilitate the second goal. So Chris's mandate, keep playing like this.
Yeah, they did get a fortunate deflection off of Campbell. And it's a giveaway from Sosa that I did not expect. I thought Sosa was perfect almost in the first half. Just so good. Lennon could have had one. Almada had a couple of great chances on his left foot that he missed narrowly. It drives you insane, but that's what it was. Yeah, I completely agree. I think you continue to build, you continue to play, you continue to create all these chances, you continue to work at what you're doing. And more often than not, when you are among the league leaders in chances created and in shot creating actions, more often than not, you're going to be among the league leaders in goals. When you're not for a period of time, it feels like a blip. So correct it. Get the goals.
DM Tim feels better about the goals will come now than he did this time last year.
It's hard to compare. I mean, it's 2 different styles of play. They're both along the lines of positional play and creating overloads and doing those things. But I feel like last year at this time, you're also dealing with COVID and things are weird and all of that. You're dealing with Joseph Martinez there, but not anywhere near 100% right now. You're dealing with him not there. It's a different personality of the team. I think Pineda having the time in the second half of last year, getting to know this group, and I think the work he's put in, they are more based on the attacking half than maybe some of the rigidities of the positional play model that Heinze wanted to incorporate. That's where I feel like the difference is. It felt, and Jared, I want to get your take on this. It felt like last year at this time, or this was early last year, because remember we got a little bit late start to the season, but the first month or 2 of the season with Heinze, it felt like they were still trying to create patterns and create repetition in the way that the team played. I don't feel like that's the case with this team. I feel like they're very creative. The patterns and the positioning and all that is strong, somewhat due to the work they put in the beginning of last season with a core of the group, not the whole group, but the foundation was already laid. Now they're able to be creative on top of it. And you've got players who are thriving in that creativity with, again, everything but the final goals.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the way I viewed it was last year. Like, you go back and watch it last year and compare to this year. To me personally, it feels kind of mechanical last year. Like they're thinking more than playing. Yeah. Like they're thinking about what they need to do instead of just doing it, which happens when you're trying to do something that's complicated.
Happens with a young coach too, in hindsight. Mm-hmm. I feel like maybe he was overdoing that side of it and not letting the personalities come out in the framework. I think he was so focused on the framework
Yeah, it felt, a lot of it felt just robotic or mechanical, or the idea of, if you've ever watched someone like play a musical instrument and they're thinking about what they're playing versus just playing, you can tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can just watch someone, if they're sight reading a piece, you can tell they're thinking more along the lines of, you know, what's the key? What's the time signature?
Yeah.
What's, what BPM am I in? And you're thinking about everything as you're doing it instead of just doing it. Whereas now it does feel more like they're just playing. Like you see Amada and Moreno linking up. It feels more like a natural just playing, and just, guys going out there doing, like, where it's almost second nature at that point. You know it. It's in the back of your head. You've played this piece before. Now you're just practicing it and you're playing it, and you know where your fingers are going to land. I played string instruments, so that's where my head is at with it.
But
You know
when
what key it is. You know where it's going to be.
Here's the thing, and I'm glad you brought it to that kind of analogy, because it kind of makes sense in some of the music I like. I like talented players, or singers. You just they're talented. They're like very good at playing the guitar. They have an amazing range and they have an amazing voice. But I gravitate more to people who are good but have that feeling come through that they play more. You get people who are very technical, but you get people who are very like soulful or emotional or whatever on the other side. I'm going to gravitate to that side more. I'm going to gravitate to Slash over Joe Satriani.
I was going to say more of a Stevie Ray at Montreux.
Yes.
Open channel, I think was the way Clapton referred to him, of like that he was an open channel with which the guitar used.
Yes. Prince was somebody who was gifted enough to be able to do both. He was an amazing musician, but he could make you feel something too. It's hard. And I think with hindsight, like, and again, maybe it's because this was his, first club outside of Argentina. He's still young as a coach. I think he was a little bit too focused on the book rather than the feel. And I think Pineda comes in. I think he gets feel really well. I think Gonzalo, different personality. He's just a different person. And I think he understands that. And he lets these guys fit within the framework better. And that's why I think they're better in the attack, because of the kinds of players you have. And that's a good thing. It's a very good thing. But it's a different approach. Like, can Gabriel Heinze in a more rigid style, or somebody like Gabriel Heinze, can they be successful? Absolutely, they can be successful. They can. But this group, I think, really feeds off of the energy, the vibe, the style, the ability to freestyle within the style that Gonzalo Pineda has created.
Yeah, it's finding that balance. But to your point, it's finding that balance between the two of, yeah, you want to be technical about everything, but you also want to have the flair. You want to be able to get to a drummer. You want to have someone who can provide fill. If we want to change instruments, someone who
you need the classic, and I think you have that in this team. Like with Argentina in '86, they said you had one piano player and 10 piano carriers. Water carriers gets used a lot too. I think you have all of that in this group. You have amazing artists in this team, and you have grinders, and you have guys who are going to be the backbeat to that. I think it's coming together really, really well, but you're not getting the results right now to go along with those performances. And it is frustrating, and it makes you question it. It does. And I'm sure everybody involved is like, man, what are we not doing? Sometimes it's just that final ball. It's just that final product.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because and Uncle, I agree. It's you can once you've played an instrument, you can tell when someone's reading versus when someone's just playing. It's clear. It's also the same sense. You can tell when someone messes up, depending on the person. If they have like the stone face, like Tom Glavine used, for instance, when he pitched, where if someone knows what they're doing, they can mess up and you won't know it unless you know that piece note for note. It's interesting that you had some games last year where they were really trying to find themselves after after Rob Valentino had taken over, then Gonzalo Pineda comes in. You rattle off some wins where things weren't perfect. You were grinding out some wins.
I think they're playing a lot better now than they were then.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's kind of ironic that I feel like you're, as a team, I think if you ask them, they're more confident about what they are right now. And they're more comfortable in what they are right now than they were then, but the results aren't there. What's really sucks about that is that this was, I think, I don't want to call it a soft underbelly to schedule, but because you caught Miami at the wrong time. It'd have been nice to catch Miami when they were still running the Breck Shea experiment and Higuain was, still out there just kind of wandering aimlessly through the desert.
I don't think this league has many soft underbellies anymore.
It doesn't. It's really annoying because you'd love to catch one. I think New England thought they might be getting one with DC, and then DC just jumped up and bit them, which New England's got their own problems to deal with. But it was Cincinnati at home, and it was a Miami team that's trying to figure it out. And credit to management Miami for sticking it out here, because they're having to get creative with the way they're doing it. They're doing a good job. And finding, we talked about it last year, finding guys like Campagna or stuff they were going to have to do to make up for the lack of funding that they were going to have because of the punishments, and they've done that. Awesome work by them. Although I think we talked about this last year, man. Like Phil Neville, like going in and changing the leadership structure a bit there. Who had the armband? Who did this, that, and the other? Really seemed to get Miami in the right direction. There's a good blurb from Doyle over on MLS about getting past all of the initial Miami bumps and their ideas of what they wanted to do into where they are now, and learning who they want to be and learning how they want to build a team and how to successfully do it. Credit to them for that.
Is Phil Neville actually being given credit?
He should be.
Yeah,
he's done really good. And whoever's, I don't know who's making the decisions in terms of loans or transfers in Miami.
Chris
I'm not
Anderson
sure
is. Chris Anderson.
Okay, I couldn't remember who was what the hierarchy was. He deserves credit.
Oh, 100%.
They've done a really good job. It's the first time I've gotten to really watch Miami this year.
They're organized. I think it's good coaching from Neville. You've had, and in that team, I mean, Marsman was there last year. You didn't have many guys who'd been there before in the starting lineup at all. I think you had one other player who had been there, and that was it. And a lot of first-year guys.
And to Michael's point, this is where I was frustrated yesterday. Michael was, I mean, that was as soft as an underbelly as you're going to get for a bit, and you wanted to get more than what you got out of it schedule-wise. You didn't, and you're going to end up taking it's MLS. You're going to take points off of teams that you're going to feel like have a better day than you, but it is really frustrating to not get more points out of this stretch of things when you are also playing well. Not to say in a vacuum you should always get that, but you played well and you created opportunities in games. You're generating, and I know people have different opinions on XG. Totally okay with that. Whether you put a lot of stock into it, a little stock into it, or no stock into it, but you played well in those situations and you didn't get more out of it. That's where my frustration is with it, because all of that together is annoying.
Yeah, it's not so much the schedule in my mind, because I think Miami turned that on its head. They've won 4 in a row in all competitions.
Yeah, you just caught them at the wrong time.
They've won 3 in a row in league. Yeah, I mean, they went to Seattle and won. They beat New England.
Like I said, Cincinnati's a weird one to figure. I can't figure out Cincinnati, because you watch them one game and Alec Can has a shocker and they'll ship 5 goals and they're a hot mess.
Then you get a rookie yesterday who does really well and keeps them in it.
Yeah, and if you ask them, I'll bet some of them feel like they should have at least gotten a point out of LAFC.
Yeah, they should have. Mm-hmm. They should have. It's a tough league. It's going to be hard going to Montreal. For me, it always comes back to you got to win your home games and you got to steal points on the road. And now, look, you got to win on the road in DC after a draw at home. Okay, you got another draw at home. You got to go get another win on the road to get back to where you were. But with all of that, all of everything, where this team is right now, where the league is, all of it, you're right in the thick of things in the Eastern Conference. you're right in the thick of it. You're on 11 points. Philadelphia's pulled away a little bit. They're on 17. But Red Bulls and Orlando are on 14. Red Bulls went into Orlando and kicked them around and ate their food out of their fridge yesterday. But you're on 11 with Toronto. You're on 11 with Montreal. NYC's on 10. Charlotte's on 10. And Miami's on 10. Chicago's on 10. DC and Columbus are on 9. Between 4th and 12th, you're separated by 2 points.
Yep.
So between 4th and 14th, you're separated by 4 points. So it's hard every day. And you got to go steal some points on the road to make up for a couple of draws at home. You stole one win in DC. I'll say you stole it. It should have been a draw. Stole it. Go steal another one. And going to Montreal and taking it from them when they drew you at home, it'd be kind of nice. But it's not going to be easy. Montreal hadn't lost in 5. Couple more, John.
Question from Modiflow is, so Rocco is returning?
Yes.
Is the question.
Yes.
So we've got that now in the books.
We talked about it Friday, and I mean, Gonzalo Pineda was asked about it, and he said, yeah, I think he was arriving to Atlanta Friday. So don't know the paperwork situation and how fast it goes through and when his visa is good. I know he's an American citizen, but is there anything with any kind of paperwork, registration, any of that has to be done? I don't know the timelines of that. So he could be on the bench as soon as this weekend.
But another warm body.
He's going to be here. Yeah, he's going to be in the mix at goalkeeper. I think Shuttleworth is the starter until there's a reason why he's not. I don't know if he's going to give you that reason. He shouldn't. He's got 222 career starts in MLS. Nothing he did yesterday you can point to that I think. The biggest difference is what we talked about with passing and why a little bit of the buildup was different, because you're not going to have Shuttleworth as involved in buildup. If Rocco's there, you'll have him involved in buildup because you probably even have him more involved in buildup than Brad was. That's the kind of goalkeeper he is.
And Jason Nix says, if you don't have faith in Shuttleworth, not sure why he came in. And I mean,
I don't think that's the issue. Nix, maybe there's more context to the comment, but they're not bringing in another goalkeeper because they don't have faith in Shuttleworth. They're bringing in another goalkeeper because you literally need another goalkeeper.
I was about to say, like, you're a reminder that Dylan Castanero also blew out his Achilles.
You have 2 goalkeepers on MLS contracts, and one of them you loaned full time to the twos because he needs games. So you literally had to sign somebody. So there's no narrative that they don't have faith in Shuttleworth.
Yeah, I agree, Uncle. Like, I thought Shuttleworth was fine, and that's what Shuttleworth is at this point.
He's a good goalkeeper.
Yeah, Shuttleworth. He's a steady goalkeeper. He's not going to be a top 5 in the league. Don't get me wrong, but you don't make that many starts in this league and do it for that many teams without being good at what you do.
Yeah,
and he's gonna be fine.
I'll disagree a little bit in that he can't be a top 5 goalkeeper. You got to look at the teams he's been on. I mean, especially his past few stops. He was in Chicago when they were bad. He was in Minnesota when they were on the bad side. He went to MLS Cup in 2014 with New England, and then he was part of New England as they slid backwards, and Jay Heaps ended up losing his job. So, like, he's been on a lot of bad teams. But if you put him in a good team, I think he's fine.
When he if and when, more of a win than an if, when he gets on a heater, everyone's going to melt down, though, because it's hilarious when he does because of his shot stopping ability. When he gets on a heater, like, go look at that 2014 Cup run with New England, like, where he just basically was possessed for a couple weeks. He just didn't let anything past him. He turned it. He basically achieved Avatar state for a little bit. It was hilarious. But yeah, Rocco gives you something because right now, like, look, with the twos, you've got Vicente Reyes, who I like Reyes a lot.
He's on a twos contract, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You have Justin Garces, who is on a homegrown deal, has been loaned to the twos, and you're trying to kind of balance that. I like Garces a lot too. Garces is learning, but they're both having to go through it. They're both, also playing with young backlines in front of them and learning really quickly on the shot stopping and organizing and ball distribution side of things in some really unforgiving environments. But you're trying to get them minutes to get them to keep improving. You got to have another body here, and Rocco is familiar it's a loan. I don't know if there's a purchase obligation or anything like that.
According to reports, yes.
Okay. But man, I don't know if y'all watched the twos last year. I know people watched the game for CONCACAF Champions League where he became a legend and a god. Man, y'all go watch the twos games. Rocco is about that life. So if you need him to be that guy, if something happens, God forbid, I'm fine with that because you got a guy who knows the team, knows the system, knows the city. It's comfortable. I think the acclimation will be minimal, and it's good. I also do want to quickly address. I think it was Ricky who said he is ready for the Rocket Rita era to begin in Atlanta.
Yeah, he's still a youngin. Let's give Rocket a little bit more time before he makes a mistake in a game, and then he shouldn't wear the shirt again. Yeah. Let's give him a little more time for that. Let's let him grow up a bit. But no, you're adding Rocco because you had to add somebody. You have to keep Garces getting games at this stage. Rocco is further along. He's got more games than Garces or Reyes as a pro. So he's going to be your number 2. And he's going to push. I mean, like Rocco's not going to come in and say, all right, I'm a backup. I'm going to hold a clipboard. I'm not going to work hard in training to try to be the number 1. Of course not. You're bringing in somebody who's young and hungry. Mm-hmm. He's going to try to outplay Shuttleworth in training. He's going to be ready to step in if he needs to. That's what you want. So you had to add somebody. It's in my mind, it is nothing to do with not being sure of Bobby Shuttleworth because you added Bobby Shuttleworth in the offseason because you wanted somebody who could do what he's doing now, step in and be the number 1. But you had to add somebody because Garces has to play. He can't sit the bench right now. You don't know what you have in Garces yet. And Reyes is a kid. He's on a 2s deal. So, you've those guys you have to see what you have. Rocco, you have more of an idea of what you have. Shuttleworth is the number 1 until proven otherwise.
Katie's right. If you're feeling like if you want your keeper to get some action, send him to the 2s for a bit because they're going to be busy. Even if it's not shot stopping, they're going to be busy organizing the Bryce Washingtons and Noah Cobbs of the world and doing distribution under pressure. You want your goalkeeper to have activity? Playing Kennesaw, where they're going to be like basically playing with a bunch of teenagers against grown men, and they're going to have to do all of that orchestration. Let's call it. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of good work, and it's a lot of good that comes out of that.
That's why Garces is there, and that's why you didn't want to cancel the loan and go sign a 2s goalkeeper, which you would have needed. You wanted to bring in Rocco to fill the role as the number 2 with the first team, but as a number 2 who wants to be the number 1.
Yeah, and in Shuttleworth, you're getting somebody who has played just under 21,000 career minutes. Top 10 clean sheets, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we got it. Bobby's the number 1, and if he struggles for whatever reason, then you've got somebody now who's a number 2, who's young, and you've at least seen him with a taste of it, and you feel like he can handle it. But he's coming in to be the number 2.
And we are officially caught up across the board.
Wow, that's shocking. All right, that'll do it for us then. We got soccer over there tonight. Jared, are you actually going to participate in Picks of the Week this time?
I'm going to try to.
Or are you going to try to duck it again?
I'm going to try and be there for that. Last time I was, last Monday, what was I doing during Picks of the Week?
You do know that the
I was sitting on a
pitch team. I know you were sitting on a beach and you had a.
Oh no, I was sitting on a balcony. I was sitting on a balcony, okay, good for you. Drinking a mango mojito.
That's fine. That's fine. Good for you. You do know that the Twitch Pitch team actually posts the games available for selection in the Discord, and you could send in your picks even when you're not able to join live. You know that, right?
I can do that.
Yeah, you usually don't. I think you just opt not to. That's okay.
Well, no,
that's fine.
There have
you
been
might
times
need to get a dog,
where...
Jared.
Oh, God, the last thing I need is a dog. I have a 5-year-old, man. That's enough.
That's not helping you with your scaredy cat tactics.
That's how that child talks trash. Y'all ain't
oh no, I know she does. No, she does not help you with being scared. She might make you more scared.
It's very possible.
Yes.
There have been a couple of weeks where I've seen them posted, and then I thought, oh man, I need to do Picks of the Week, but I'll do it on Wednesday night. I'm like, I'm not even going to bother at this point because at that point, it's the window is closed.
Yeah, it has. Well, we'll see. Maybe Jarrett will return to Picks of the Week. Probably not. He'll probably find an
Coco's trying to remove all of my excuses. I appreciate that.
I'm with you, Coco. Thank you. Thank you. Talk that trash. But we'll get into picks of the week. We'll see if we find more tactical bunnies or chicken NFCs to talk about. Tomorrow, we're going to talk a little bit about an event that there's a big announcement tomorrow as well. The Daytona Soccer Fest. Soccer at the Daytona International Speedway, July 2nd and 3rd. Couple things going. I mean, we've talked about this before. This has been planned pre-COVID, but you've got a Colombian Classico down there for this, and we'll talk a little bit about it. But they have an announcement tomorrow afternoon, it appears, and maybe there's going to be an NWSL game down there. It looks like with Orlando and Louisville. Interesting. That is being rumored, but we'll find out more tomorrow. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about all the other stuff going on in MLS with Dylan Butler tomorrow. It was a wild, wild weekend. We'll get into that. But tonight will be soccer over there. We'll talk Serie A. Who's going to win it? Is Nick Alifi's beloved Milan going to do it, or is the crosstown team going to do it? Oh, boy. Manchester City, Liverpool, Everton potentially going down. PSG winning the title and reportedly figuring out how quickly they can get Mauricio Pochettino out of town. And does that mean Antonio Conte comes to Paris? And does that mean Pochettino goes back to London? It might. Maybe they trade. I don't know. Craziness. We'll talk about all that tonight on Soccer Over There, 7:05. So y'all have a good rest of the day, and we'll see you later this evening. Mucho plata, y'all.
Mucho plata, y'all.
Mucho plata, y'all.